And welcome. This is Not a Milkfitch, and it's Artist on Art. Yay! For today, April 22nd, Earth Day, everybody. Happy Earth Day. I'm so glad to be here and talking with my two guests. I'm very excited to be speaking with Jacob Garbe and Andrew Siller. They're here at KZSC to talk about their work, specifically in digital art and new media, because they are the last, sad to say, Danamites of this month's series of Danam graduates. I got just about everybody, and just in time, because guess what? Their show will be opening up. That's Ground Control. Will be beginning April 27th and 28th. And then the big hurrah is May 2nd, and it will be May 2nd through the 5th at the dark. So, Jacob Garbe, hey, thanks for coming into the station.
Thanks for having me.
Jacob Garbe does some very interesting work. He has been working specifically in the game, app, augmented reality, artificial intelligence world. Mm-hmm. Very exciting. And specifically, he's been working with a company, iSecurity.
Yeah, iSecurity Automation.
And this is a company that makes a app mm-hmm. that you can download mm-hmm. for your iPhone or Android.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
In fact, you were saying that the programming language that you used allows it to be on 5 different platforms? Or?
Yeah. I made the app I'm the Mateo platform, which actually it lets you do augmented reality mobile apps on iPhone and Android stuff. So I'm sort of like, the way I do things is by bootstrapping a lot, which I think a lot of the people in our program can relate with. But it's an easy way to sort of pull together a lot of code, but then push it out to as many different devices as possible. Because I always hate it when you see something cool, but it's like for Android only, or it's for iPhone only.
Let's just say, for instance, another Danam alum who is here, Phoenix Taves.
Oh, yeah.
He created his own programming for augmented reality called Palimpsest. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But that is specifically for iOS.
Yeah, and it actually, his software also performs a lot better on iOS devices than I would say Mateo does, because they sort of abstract it out. So, like, the cool thing is that it works on a lot of different things, and I can program it in JavaScript and HTML, which I actually already knew. So when I saw it, I was like, oh, wow, I can pretend like I actually know how to make apps because of this software. Phoenix is like, if you make an app with that stuff, it's actually using the native language of the device. And so it runs a lot faster. You get a lot better performance. But I wanted to try to reach out to as many people as possible, so I decided to go with Mateo for now.
So Jacob Garbe is a graduating Danamite, as mentioned before. He comes to it in a very interesting way. You actually got your degree in literature from one of my places, DePauw University, having come from Indiana.
With a W, not an L.
DePauw. Pa.
Yeah.
It's a place, a small, really nice university, very well regarded in, I want to say, central western Indiana.
Yeah.
Which is not where you come from, which is kind of interesting. Most people don't go to Indiana.
I'm actually, I grew up in, I was born in Montana, grew up in Virginia, went to undergrad in Indiana, lived in Michigan for a bit, lived in Ireland for 6 months, and then after I graduated, moved up to Oregon, and then from Oregon moved over to Kentucky, and then decided to go to grad school here, and so I moved to California.
What made you decide to go to UCSC?
To be honest, it was I had looked at the program, and it seemed like there was so much freedom to sort of pursue your own crazy ideas that you have. And it seemed like, and something that I would say really is a hallmark of the Danam program is that you have a lot of freedom and you have a lot of support to pursue those angles. So, before this, I was actually just, I did web development. I'm a self-taught web developer.
Well, you mentioned that you knew, did you say JavaScript and HTML?
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool for somebody who studied literature.
Yeah, it's funny. My thesis for undergrad was series of hyperfiction pieces, which is like basically it's like Wikipedia, except if every page on Wikipedia was a little piece of a story, and so you could follow the links to find different parts of the stories. And so I kind of got into that at the very end of undergrad, and I was like, oh man, like this is really cool stuff.
I love hyperlinking.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it's great. And it's really, yeah. And
so for our dear audience that was like, what the heck is hyperlinking? What are you talking about?
Or so like, so like with hyperfiction, it's like if you had a page that said the cat walked down the street, but cat was a link that you could click on, or street was a link you could click on. And if you clicked on cat, then it would say like, this cat was brown and white and loved eating fish. But if you clicked on the street, it would say like, many cats had walked down that street over the course of many years. And so it allows people to sort of have a bit of agency in what sort of story space they're exploring.
Exactly. So this is the way for interactive storytelling.
Yeah, totally.
So that's kind of your into this computer game app world. Yeah,
it was funny because, so I came into Danum and I was pretty much like, oh, I can do like hyperfiction. And when I came here, I kind of exploded everywhere. I started looking into augmented reality. I did a piece the first quarter that was using augmented reality with collage posters.
Now, I'm sorry to interrupt you again, Jacob Garbey. Augmented reality. Some say maybe it's better said blended reality as opposed to augmented reality. What is your definition of augmented reality?
So the sort of technical definition I would go with is, so you've got like virtual reality, which is just all computer, right? Like you put on the huge, the big crazy thing,
helmet
and you're waving your
with
hands
the gloves
around.
and motion sensing.
Yeah, and there's nothing really in there from the real world. And so augmented reality is sort of like a little more connected to the real world, because augmented reality would be like me holding up these headphones and having them like have a tiger on top of them or something. And then I move the headphones, but I'm moving the little like tiger 3D object in the same way. Or
well, when I was saying blended, it also is, it's blending virtual reality with reality, with the place.
Yeah, the important thing that they say is the registration. So it's like like whatever the virtual thing is, it's tied to a physical object, and that's the important distinction. Is that without the physical object, you don't have the virtual object, and that's, I feel, is a real big difference between augmented reality and the sort of like full-on virtual reality.
So, do you consider Google Glasses augmented reality?
It's hard to say, because I haven't really seen a whole lot of like the actual things that Google Glass does. I've seen that they can do sort of like life blogging, where you can like wear them and like take videos of where you're going and the cool stuff you're doing. And I can see that it sort of shows you.
But like, if it reads your face and it tells you who that person is, wouldn't that be augmented reality? Yeah,
I think so, because it would be registering to sort of like what that real world object is. Or so, like if you wanted to get to the coffee shop and it pulled up a map and just showed you a map, but it didn't correspond to where you were, I would say that's not necessarily augmented reality. But once it starts saying like, no, like take a left at the street that you're looking at right now, then you're starting to get into the space where it's like, no, this is like augmented reality. So.
Now, this is a very good segue for me, Jacob Garbey, to get into another one of your very, very big research areas, and a place that you've been working on is artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
That's another term that is very difficult for the average person to, even the person such as myself who's researched artificial intelligence.
Even a person like myself who is trying to do things.
And so we were talking about this before our show. You kind of gave a label of soft artificial intelligence and strong.
Yeah, or weak and strong.
Weak and strong. And so what would be an example of weak?
I sort of think of like weak artificial intelligence as artificial intelligence has been made to do a certain thing very well, but cannot generalize out from that very well. So like I would consider maybe something like a GPS as a very specialized, like it can find you the shortest point that doesn't have you going the wrong way on a one-way street, or all of these other rules, right? So in a sense, it's intelligent because it can tell you that. But if you ask it, well,
what about when it starts taking data about traffic? and it's starting to interpolate, okay, so there's an accident here. My past programming data would suggest that there was going to be a 2-minute delay at this exit. And then it tells you there's a 2-minute delay. And then there is a 2-minute delay, and so then it gets the feedback that, yes, indeed, the extrapolation was correct, and then it learns from that. And so the next time you run into this same place.
Yeah. I think those sorts of, and I'm going to get into weird or territory where I haven't, I'm worried I'm going to like mislabel something, but I feel like it's still sort of weak AI, but very sort of like adding in recursion and all of that sort of stuff is a really powerful thing that you can do.
Your example for strong AI was...
Technically, strong AI hasn't been invented yet, but it's sort of like a thing, from my understanding, it's sort of like what we're trying to approach. And so...
2012, baby.
Yeah, it's going to...
No, 2020.
2012.
2020.
Do you know something I don't?
It happened last year.
Oh, no.
2020 is what Kurzweil says is the tipping point.
I don't know. So, like, I think of stuff like... you know, on one hand, you've got Google Maps. It's like, oh, yeah, it's really good at time. And then maybe like a step up from that, you've got Siri. And it's like, oh, well, you can ask Siri all sorts of things. Like, I remember being really impressed the first time I got Siri. I was like, all right. I said, Siri, where is Dick Cheney? And she was, replied back, yeah, I know, right? Was like, Dick Cheney's giving a talk at Harvard next week. Do you want to buy tickets? And I was just like, what? So it's really impressive, right? But
well, you know what happened to me, Jacob?
No.
I told it to add an event to my calendar, and then I realized there was. She told me, Siri told me that there was already that event in my calendar, and I said, oh, well, then don't put it in there. And she said, good, because you're too busy anyways.
Oh, wow.
Which my family then erupted in huge laughter because I am usually too busy. And so it was like the first day. Siri's already got me.
Yeah. It's funny. They always, the AIs, even when they seem like you know everything about like how they work and everything else, they still manage to surprise you.
Oh, totally. So you have this work. You can go, our dear audience can go to iSecurityAutomation.com, and there you can download the app. And then put it on your iPhone, Android, smartphone, and start playing with it. Describe to us what you are doing, because I downloaded it before the show, and it's actually pretty fun. It got me sucked in right away.
Oh, good.
Is it a
I'm
game?
Glad. Yeah, it's kind of like
it's got some game dynamics in it.
Yeah, you get a prompt from the server that tells you to take a picture of, we'll say, I think you started off with something like angry. Yeah. Just sort of like you're kind of like, oh, why start people off with that? But
it's kind of a negative thing.
Yeah, but and so what happens is you take a picture of it, and that sort of sends the picture back.
To the server, where some artificial intelligent type situation happens.
Yeah, it like chews on it for a little bit, and it gives you back something that's sort of like conceptually related to angry. And so I forget what you got. You got like Tempest Wild Wind. Yeah, and so it's like I think.
So what it did was it looked at something in my picture, which was an attempt to show myself angry, which was really bad, and your program didn't buy it for a second and said, oh, hey, look, what's behind you there, which was a parking meter, which was kind of makes me angry.
That's probably what made you angry, right? Yeah.
Right. But didn't ask me about that. It asked me about the trees and maybe the wind. It saw something in that picture that created the next prompt.
Yeah, and then and then it sort of chains off of that, and then as you're taking pictures, it's sort of working through different ways. And then you can also and it's funny because people do get sucked into sort of like what the AI is asking them to take pictures of, but you can also sort of like suggest your own things. Because sometimes it gets really obsessed about it gets obsessed about weird things like I think it was one. Actually, I think it came up for you. Smiling Suit Man.
Yeah,
it's always coming up, and
Smiling Suit Man is always coming up.
Yeah,
and so then I tried to take a picture of you smiling, but it didn't buy that either.
No. it's very skeptical.
It is. It's like, that's not working. I want to try something else, and so then we went for trees. Since it's easy to take pictures of
but
trees
it's always like, so it's sort of like, it's really good when it starts obsessing about things that are sort of like not productive to sort of be thinking about, that you can take different prompts to sort of get it like out of that like little hole and sort of be like, no, like here's a picture of a tree, or like, no, here's a picture of like a dog. Actually, the funny thing is that it's got this sort of database of really complex words too, and but sort of like the way it communicates is necessarily, it's sort of like limited, and so it's easy to sort of be like, oh, you know, like dog, cat, like you're sort of like working with a small child, you know. But you can also do like, you know, I was trying out one and I was like, tatterdemalion, and it said, oh yes, tatterdemalion, like, can we talk about raggedy? And I'm like, oh yeah, you do know what that means. So it's funny. I think there's a lot of interesting things, and a lot of the work that I'm doing with this piece is sort of showing people like how we both personify artificial processes, like saying Siri is a she because it has a female voice. Yeah. But there's a lot of anthropomorphizing, I think, that people do. Like we want to, you know, we get angry at our computers and we say, you know, like it doesn't want to work or whatever. And I sort of
messing with me.
Yeah, and I sort of. It's sulking, like, oh, my laptop didn't want to start up today. And, oh, no, it's slow. It's like hungover from last night. But I feel like it's an interesting space to sort of have people, you know, give people the ability to sort of personify these processes, but then also in surprising ways sort of like remind them, like, this is just, you know, this is a process. This is like a discrete sense of like a collection of routines and everything else.
Or with Derek Franz, a piece of meat that you're...
Yeah, I like...
Which he was on and described his work that will be also showing at Ground Control, April 27th and 28th, May 2nd through 5th at the Digital Arts Research Center here, right by the Music and Art buildings.
Yeah, it should be a great show.
It's gonna be a great show.
The space is getting filled up. Everybody's setting up their stuff. It's going to be exciting. I'm looking forward to it a lot.
And so there's 8 of you that are graduating: John Patrick Asen, Derek Franz, yourself, Jacob Garbey, Catalina Geraldo, who was on last week, Dan Heller, Andrew Siller, who will be up next, Eve Warnock, and Laura Wright. It's a fairly small cohort. How was that process for you?
It was great.
Good.
You know,
everybody seems to have had a really good time.
Yeah, you know, that was, I think, and I don't want to. Yeah, another like one of the best things that I liked about Danum is that a lot of my friends went through MFA programs too. When I wasn't, you know, when I just had a regular job. And I saw a lot of kind of like, there can be a lot of snarkiness and there can be a lot of backbiting and sort of stuff
Posturing.
That happens. Yeah, like, oh, is this what we're doing now? Sort of a thing. But in Danum, everybody's been so supportive. And I really feel like there's never been an instant where I've been in competition with my cohort. But I've always felt like, too, that I could come to them and be like, I don't understand why this is working, like, blah, blah, blah. And then have people actually interested in helping me and, you know, people excited about work. So
Andrew, do you want to add to this conversation? This is Andrew Siller.
I wanted to position the mic correctly to do so. I would add that Jacob and Derek are almost like the brothers I never had.
Aww.
And I mean that. I really do.
Yeah.
It was a pleasure to be in the cohort with both of you for the time that I was. Of course, I was out for a little while last year, but it's been great. It's been really good. You said it very, very well, I think.
Yeah, and then I think also, you know, from what I've seen, too, of Danum alumni and everything else, that, you know, the network extends.
Yeah, we have a life after.
It does.
It's probably continue. The stress of the final show, like getting everything together. It like brings you together.
Right, because you're like going through labor.
Yeah.
And the delivery happens, and you're all together.
Yeah.
And hugging and kissing at the end.
Really?
Jabe, it's all right. I'll pass on that bit. But we can do the side hug.
Yeah, we'll do the
brotherly
and fist bump, etc.
There's the fist bump thing.
Yeah.
Jacob Garbey, he's on. He's been on to talk about his work, specifically his graduating thesis work and project, which is with iSecurityAutomation.com. And so this company is where people can go and download the app. There's also a Facebook page.
Yeah.
And so tell us a little bit about iSecurity Automation.
It's a company that I sort of got in contact with middle of last year. And I had done a lot of work previously, sort of on the side. So I came to Denim from a graphic design, web design position. And a lot of the stuff that I had been doing is basically creating these data visualizations, which is what you'll see at the show. And also working on pulling together the app and sort of like getting the stuff working with the AI, and sort of getting. There's a lot of times there are really interesting projects out there that don't have a good way to communicate the sort of stuff that's going on under the scenes or whatever, or behind the scenes. And so a lot of what this project has been about has been sort of like working with that, and also like just creating a good experience for people that can also be sort of artistic and everything else. But it's definitely been interesting, an interesting sort of partnership, or what do you say, like strange bedfellows.
So tell us a little bit about the artificial intelligence. There's been some problems with that at
no,
iSecurity Automation?
It's just like the bugs that you get with any sort of release. There's like. Yeah, like it was really funny because actually what happened was I submitted the app out, and so you sort of, when you're doing stuff online, there's always a sort of like difference between nobody is ever going to look at this ever and
right.
Everybody is going to look at this ever, and so luckily it wasn't everybody. But what happened was I submitted this out, and I was sort of, we're going to have a focus group, we're going to like work with a small number of people. I wanted to be able to like. If it was messing up on their phone, I want to be able to say, like, oh, well, here, like, let me see your phone. Oh, okay. But what actually...
So a gentle kind of...
Yeah, like, amongst friends.
Testing, yes.
Yeah, and I figured I was really pessimistic. I said, yeah, I'll upload it on there, but nobody's going to
There's like a million apps.
Yeah, like, why would anybody play my app? And... but within like the first 4 hours, I had like 150 people downloading it. And so all of a sudden, it sort of really took me by surprise. And so, yeah, like as a result, I think we got a lot of bug reports.
Oh, and the servers went down because of the traffic you weren't expecting?
Yeah, that whole thing. And but it's all been doing like bug fixes. A lot of the stuff that I've been doing has been bug fixes. But yeah, now everything should be running good. And I got some of the weird. It's always too with like weird input, right? Like. It seems a lot of stuff when you're working on like digital media pieces or any sort of when you sort of like expose it to other people or you like put it out in the world, you really get unexpected results a lot of times. And so the sort of like only thing you can really do is try to stay as adaptive as possible and sort of be like, no, like I think that bug's a feature actually, but yeah,
right, an unintended feature.
Yeah. But yeah, it's been going good so far. It'll be interesting. We've got lots of XMPLAR, which is what the AI is. We've got lots of them now, and I've got some really awesome visualizations and ways to sort of see like how
people how they build their experience in a way.
Yeah. It's like
like a tree of experience. Or
it's a way to the data visualization I would say is a way to sort of visualize people's experience and contributions.
So tree isn't the word. I'm thinking more like a synapse, I guess, and it goes off in different directions.
Yeah, or like a network or yeah.
Super cool. You showed them to me before. So you'll be able to see this at the Denim MFA Exhibition. You'll be able to see the data visualization that is created by the users of the app named XMPLAR.
Yeah, XMPLAR.
XMPLAR.
It's some acronym, I don't. But it'll be cool, and it's all anonymized, so nobody's, you don't have to worry about. But yeah, there's going to be.
And it's in real time. The data visualization is in real time.
Yeah, totally. And so there's a couple of different things I've got planned. There's going to be one where you can sort of see all of the XMPLAR as they're sort of being, and then. One where people will actually be able to collaboratively share photos that they've taken for their different XMPLAR. So people who show up will have a chance to download it and like, you know, take pictures and help grow the AI, but they'll also have a way to sort of like share them and sort of like experience, like see what other people are doing. So I hope everything goes well.
Well, Jacob Garbey, thank you so much for talking with us today on Artist on Art. If you missed any part of the show, you'll be able to go to artistonart.com and see both the video and get the podcast and the links so that you yourself should go get this app. It's really fun. You got to go to iSecurityAutomation.com right now, folks. Or you can go onto Facebook and search it somehow.
Yeah.
Or actually, you said it was easier to go to iSecurityAutomation.com.
It's all there.
It's all there. And you'll get to come and see the real-time data visualization at the 2013 Danum MFA Exhibition.